Alright, what's going on everyone out there on YouTube, NES Ruler, and welcome to a brand new review. And this time around we'll be checking out a film that was sent to me review by Reel Gore Releasing, and you can pick this up right now on Blu-ray at all your favorite online retailers. It is a film that was started in 2019 but just released now in 2022. It is a Japanese film titled Maniac Driver. So this is a brand new movie from the director of a film called Gun Woman. I think I have it right here. Gun Woman. Really awesome movie. Underrated movie that doesn't get talked about quite enough. So Gun Woman, this is the director's third film. And it's like an interesting, like, giallo character study kind of a piece. And it's extra sleazy like an Italian giallo as well. Now, dude, I like this movie. No, not particularly, to be completely honest with you. I thought it was just trying to be sleazy just to be sleazy. I thought the story with the main character and his past traumas and how he was dealing with those past traumas were a lot more interesting than just throwing in some sleaziness. And I'll get into that in the plot, but I just feel like this movie ultimately was 50% interesting and 50% just the sleaze fest that I found overall. So basically we follow this taxi driver in Japan, and he's a little bit of a disturbed individual because one night he walked in from his job and he saw his wife getting raped by this man in this black motorcycle helmet, all black. Saw his wife getting raped, and he ultimately was not able to save her, and she was ultimately drowned in their bathtub. And this caused him to be quite angry and quite remorseful towards society because nobody really gave two shits about this incident. So he ultimately becomes a taxi driver, and he wants to make somebody else have that same pain that he was feeling. So he ultimately targets women, and he ultimately murders them, hoping to achieve the fact that their loved ones feel the same pain that he does. And he dresses up in the same biker uniform that his wife got killed in. I mean, it's an interesting character piece in that sense, like what makes this character tick to want to cause somebody to have that same pain and suffering that he went through, because he knows what it feels like. Why would he want to cause that on somebody else? I mean, it ultimately proves he's a pretty twisted individual, and I just wish it would have went more of that kind of giallo route, but it ultimately, everybody that he murders ultimately ends up in some softcore porn kind of nudity-ridden, voyeuristic episode, which is like, why does it have to be like that? Like, I understand it's trying to be sleazy and it's trying to be inspired a little bit by Italian films, but I didn't really feel like it added anything to the plot or developed any of these characters that he was murdering or anything like that. I felt like it was a little bit of a letdown. The movie's only 69 minutes long before and after credits, so it's not a long film whatsoever. It has a really awesome soundtrack, I have to say. You know, most Italian giallos have really awesome soundtracks, and I feel like this movie follows in that realm. I mean, it's a really awesome, really great synth score soundtrack. It's definitely the highlight of the film. And I'm not saying the film isn't nice. Like, sure, it's a little bit rough on some points, and it feels pretty guerrilla-style, independent kind of filmmaking. And you see that. It's very rough at some parts around the edges and looks cheap. But sometimes it adds a little oomph and a little bit of those giallo colors and neons that we're used to seeing. And it adds a little bit more flair. But ultimately, it's a pretty cheap-looking film, which is fine. I'm not knocking it because of that, but it just looks cheap, and I feel like they just tried to hide some of that cheapness by having a boatload of nudity, and it just didn't do anything for me. So Maniac Driver, it's interesting. Is it as good as Gunwoman? No, it's nowhere near as good as Gunwoman, nor is it as near as polished or even interesting as that film. But I feel like there's a little bit something going for this one with its main character, but it ultimately isn't fully developed, and it just ends in a kind of a quick way that doesn't really conclude his story. Like I said, it's only 69 minutes. It could have been a little bit longer. It could have fleshed out a little bit more of his backstory, but it ultimately just ends. So, if you like, sleazy, low-budget, slasher, giallo kind of movies, you're probably going to want to check this one out. It just wasn't for me. As for the package, pretty simple. You got reversible cover art and your disc here. And then special feature-wise, you got a making of and a trailer and then a commentary with the director. So a few features on this. And yeah, it's a cool release. I love the red snapper case. I mean, that's very, very awesome. I wish more companies would release their films in different colored snap cases. I feel like it adds a little oomph to the package. So I like the red packaging. So that is my review of Maniac Driver. If you guys like this review, please give it a thumbs up. And as always, you can follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/NESRuler22. Hope everybody is doing well, and I shall talk to you guys soon. See you guys.